Well, I hope that you're having a good week so far. I hope that everything is well in your life. Um, I know that several people are still out because they're sick or um, recovering from surgery or they're hurting in some other way, and we certainly want to be thinking about these people. We want to be lifting them up in prayer. We want to let them know that we love them and that their God loves them. If you are sick or hurting in any way, as I always say, if we don't know about it, please let us know. We want to know that. And if you need anything at all, we just ask that you would ask us. We're in Genesis chapter 12, you might remember, and we're pretty much at the middle. We're starting in chapter 10, and you might remember up until this point, Abraham hasn't. It seems that things have gone well for Abraham up until this point, right? He's now walking through the land that his God is, or at least his God has promised to give him. So he's getting to take a survey of the land as he moves throughout, and he hasn't seemed to experience any adversity up until this point. But notice I said up until this point because it's when Abraham comes to the southern area of the land of Canaan that he notices that there is perhaps a downfall to that area of Canaan at certain times of year. It's desert land. It doesn't rain much, and because it's desert and it doesn't rain much, that provides the possibility of famine. And like most people have had to do that lived at the southern area of Canaan, if you didn't want to die or you didn't want your flocks to die during a time of famine, well, you had to migrate somewhere. So you usually migrated south toward Egypt, and that's exactly what we find Abraham and Sarai doing. I know I'm saying Abraham and his name hasn't changed yet. Just offer me some grace, I guess. Abram, I'll say that. I know that might make some people upset. So now there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to Sarai, his wife, I know that you are a woman beautiful in appearance. And when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but they will let you live. So notice, as Abraham is moving to Egypt, he becomes a bit apprehensive, doesn't he? He starts to worry. What's going to happen when we enter into this foreign land? This isn't the land that God has promised. I'm going into the land of Egypt. How are they going to receive me? And notice that he says about Sarai, his wife, that she's a woman beautiful of appearance. So perhaps the Egyptians were interested in a beautiful, mature woman that was able to have babies. Either way, Abraham is worried about how they're going to be received. But notice, instead of giving his fear and turning his worry over to God, he seeks to devise a plan of his own, and that's not going to be good, as we know. So, what are you to do? Well, verse 13, say you are my sister, that it may go well with me because of you, that my life may be spared for your sake. So Abram tells Sarai, his wife, tell him that you're my sister. Now, we know that she is his half-sister, right? So, this is the white lie that everybody likes to talk about, but a white lie is a lie. He's trying to be deceptive here. But notice his plan. If I tell them that she's my wife, they're going to kill me and they're going to take her for themselves. If I tell them that she's my sister, and if she tells them that she's my sister, they'll come to me. They'll come to me and ask my permission to marry her, and, perhaps Abraham's thinking, I'll just stall for that period of time until the famine is over, and then we'll leave and we'll be on our merry way, and, all is well here. Well, we get to verses 14 through 16. When Abraham entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. Well, Abraham's worries had some merit to them, didn't they? Because what happens is exactly what Abraham thought would happen. They notice how beautiful Sarai actually is. And when the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. So they've even caught the eyes of the princes, so much so that they go back and tell the great Pharaoh. I'll put that in quotes because we're going to see he's not that great. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. Well, Pharaoh is moving a bit too quickly, right? Because what should he have done? He should have went to Abraham. He should have sought to solidify his relationship with Abraham instead of moving so fast by taking Sarah into his house. And it seems that he notices that he's sort of violated the protocol, because what verse 16 says, and for her sake he dealt well with Abraham, and he had sheep and oxen, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels. So he sends all these things out to Abraham. Now, notice that Abraham wanted to go to Egypt. Why? Because he wanted to save himself, and he wanted to save Sarah, and he wanted to save his flocks. He wanted it to be well with him. He had no intention of it becoming this well, right? As far as Pharaoh making him more rich or richer. But the Lord, verse 17, we're going to go through 20. But the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So now the Lord is upset by this, because this could possibly interfere with the Lord's plan of making a great nation out of Abraham through Sarai, his wife. Things are going to be messed up if Pharaoh takes Sarah as his wife. So the Lord sends diseases upon the house of Pharaoh. That is, he afflicts them with great plagues. And Pharaoh knows that they are experiencing this great devastation and this punishment because Sarai is in his house. After all, it's not hard to figure out, right? Until Abraham and Sarai get here, things are going well. These two show up and things are going terrible for the Egyptians, so it's not hard to piece together. What is this you have done to me? So notice he really gets at him with three questions. What is this that you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why do you say she is my sister, so that I took her for my wife? Notice Pharaoh is pushing the blame. This isn't my fault, buddy. You told me that she was your sister, not your wife. I know that I sort of jumped the gun. I know I violated protocol. I know this didn't play out in your mind how you thought it would, but this is your fault. You deceived me. Well, notice he's still paying for it. And Pharaoh gave men orders concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. Now, this part of the story might strike you as a bit odd. Abraham, a foreigner, has come into the land of Egypt. He's deceived the Egyptians. He's also deceived Pharaoh. His actions have led to Pharaoh's household being punished by the God Yahweh. The Egyptians, they thought of Pharaoh as what? Well, they thought of Pharaoh as a god. So why is it that this God, Pharaoh, is letting Abraham and his wife go after they've caused such great trouble? Well, it appears that in the mind of Pharaoh, this God that has afflicted the Egyptians is mightier than Pharaoh, because Pharaoh can't stop it. Pharaoh wouldn't dare do anything else to Abram and Sarai. What would the consequences be then? Look what's happening now. The best thing for Pharaoh to do is to get them out of his country. And notice what he does. He sends men with them. Make sure they get out, and make sure they get out safe. Their blood's not on our hands. That's not going to happen to us. Just make sure they get out of here. We need them out of here so that these diseases, these plagues, they'll stop. This sort of is foreshadowing what's going to happen again in Israel's history, right? Because people of Israel were forced to leave the land of Canaan, we know, in the time of Joseph. Why? Because there's a famine in the land of Canaan, and they'll show up, and The Egyptians will treat them, I suppose, as guests for a little while, and then their welcome will run out, and there rises a Pharaoh that doesn't know Joseph anymore, and he subjects the people to his rule. And then, of course, God will have to deliver his people again. So he'll afflict the Egyptians with plague. You see how these events kind of parallel each other. Let's not forget about these things. But then we move to chapter 13. So Abram went up from Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the Negev. Now Abraham was very rich in livestock and silver and gold, and he journeyed on from the Negev as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning between Bethel and Ai. We remember this episode, right? This is where Abraham builds an altar to God, and we suppose that he offers a sacrifice to God, but he's calling upon the name of Yahweh at this point. Well, notice he was in Egypt, and he goes back up toward the southern area again of Canaan. And now he's going north even more, and now he's between Bethel and Ai again. Notice Lot's with him, and Abraham is very rich at this point, but Lot is also rich as well. Verses 5 through 7 tell us, and Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling together, for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abraham's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. At that time the Canaanites and the Perizzites were dwelling in the land. Well, this begs the question, right? If the land can't support them both, you know, how many people did they actually have? Well, we know in the next chapter that Abraham's going to muster up 318 people to go fight against King Chedorlaomer. So there's 318 men there. He's got all these possessions. He has servants as well. He has livestock, and Lot's got the same. There's already strife, right? There's strife between the herdsmen of Lot and the herdsmen of Abram, and you know, this strife is only going to build into more conflict. Abraham knows that, and he certainly doesn't want his relationship with Lot to be impaired because of that conflict. So Abraham does the right thing, and he tells Lot, you know, we got to do something about this. And keep in mind, we might wonder, okay, Abraham musters up 318 men, but I mean, my goodness, we're talking about the land of Canaan. It's going to support a lot more people in the days, you know, when we read in Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. When we read those books, there's going to be a lot more people dwelling in the land of Canaan. So what's the deal here? Well, notice the Canaanites and the Perizzites are also dwelling in the land. It's just not Abraham and Lot's people. Verses 8 through 13, then Abram said to Lot, let there be no strife between you and me, and your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right, or if you take the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered, everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt in the direction of Zoar. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other. Abraham settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valleys and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. Wow, there's a lot in that. Abraham tells Lot, we need to get this figured out. We can't dwell together anymore. So at least how I imagine the story, Abraham takes Lot up on perhaps a cliff and allows him to look out at what the Lord is going to bless Abraham with, and he tells Lot, if you want to go east, buddy, I'll go west. If you want to go west, I'll go east. You pick, right? Abraham is being very compassionate at this point toward his nephew. We can tell that Abraham loves and he cares for his nephew. He wants his nephew to do well, and he wants nothing ill to befall his nephew. Well, notice what catches Lot's eye. The Jordan Valley, right? The Jordan Valley catches Lot's eye. That's to the east. The Jordan Valley is 1,200 feet below sea level. It's warm in the winter. It's very warm in the summers. The land is fertile. The land is lush. In fact, we have comparisons to the garden of the Lord to the land of Egypt. You see, what was going on while Lot was in Egypt? Was he thinking, this is what I want? This is the place that I would like to be? He starts noticing the rich soil, the affluent society. You know, what's going through Lot's mind? Because the Jordan Valley is what catches his eye. So he decides to go over there. But notice he pitches his tent east, but he doesn't stay there. He continually moves closer and closer and closer to the city of Sodom. And as we know, Sodom is an extremely wicked city. Was the wickedness and perverseness of the people in Sodom, did that excite Lot and cause him to move? We're not sure, but we certainly have started to question the character of Lot at this point in the narrative, right? Especially when Abraham is so nice and compassion and shows compassion to him by letting him choose. You know, Abraham's his uncle. Why didn't he defer? Why didn't he say, no, Abraham, you pick? You know, why didn't he try to negotiate with Abraham? You know, I know our herdsmen are fighting, but I'll never let them come between you and I. We're not going to we're not going to have a bad relationship because of this. Just questions we wonder. Then the Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land that you see, I will give you. So as Lot lifted up his eyes, God tells Abraham, now Abraham, lift up your eyes. And of course, I imagine Abraham in a place where he can see all these things. You know, look north, Abraham. Look toward Shechem. Look south, Abraham. Look toward Jerusalem. Look east, Abraham. Look toward the Jordan Valley. Look west, Abraham. Look toward the plain of Sharon. This is all that I am giving you. This is yours. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth. You can't number, Abraham, the dust of the earth. You're not going to be able to number your descendants. They're going to be beyond measure, beyond counting, Abraham. And notice, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring can also be counted. Not going to happen. But I will give to you and to your offspring forever. This promise is eternal, Abraham. It doesn't have an expiration date. Arise, walk through the length and the breadth of the land, for I will give it to you. Do not settle down in the land of Canaan right now, Abraham. You need to walk about throughout the land like you were doing in the beginning. You need to lay your claim to the land. So Abram moved his tent and came and settled by the oaks of Mamre, which are at Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. So we see that Abraham shows his appreciation and his devotion to God by building an altar once more. This is a perfect place for us to stop so that we can get into chapter 14 next week. I hope you have a great rest of the week. God bless.